Hello and welcome back to another episode of hashtag Screw the W2. And my guest is Natalie Boak. And if she maybe looks familiar, or if you've followed me for some time, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you see this little light bulb podcasting showing up in the back corner. She's actually my podcast editor. So with that, I wanted to bring her on the show, share her experiences, if you will. So Natalie, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me, John.
You bet. So now, Natalie, maybe like I kind of alluded to, you started your podcasting editing studio services, also social media management, some other source or other things to do for customers. But can you first take us back to a few years ago? What was your previous or last W-2 job?
So my last W-2 job, I was a paraprofessional at a preschool, special education preschool. Yeah, I would, it was the typical Monday through Thursday because we have we have a 4-day work week here or
Okay.
school day. Yeah. And so yeah, it was, the schedule, the routine, the, typical W-2.
All right. Sounds good. And then what was and maybe you can share, how long you were in that position, but what was like a moment, or maybe there was a series of moments you thought this isn't for me, I got to do something different, or on the far extreme, I hate this job or whatever.
Yeah, so I was a paraprofessional for about, I want to say about 4.5 years.
Okay.
I did really like my job, but even prior to that, all my W-2 jobs, I never felt like this was the right thing for me. I
Mm,
went through, I was a cashier, did the convenience store and all that stuff, but never really felt right.
sure.
So I was always looking for kind of like my place. And then as so many stories start, like COVID hit. And
Yep.
and I became a remote preschool teacher, which was very interesting.
I
I
can
was
only imagine.
it was fascinating trying to keep kids' attention just like this, but it was a great experience. And then with everything going on, we just decided, let's keep the kids home, do the remote schooling and see what happens. And in that time, I thought, well, here's an opportunity for me to see what else is out there, kind of that. Is there an opportunity to work from home? And a friend of mine, a mutual friend of ours, actually, she
Yep.
reached out to me, Julie Holly, and asked if I wanted to edit her podcast.
Okay.
And so I was like, never done it before. Sure, let's give this a try.
Let's just Google it and see what happens. So,
Yeah, pretty much. That was pretty much it. And I did a lot, did the research and found a program and just kind of started.
yep.
And it just kind of took off. I eventually found myself with next thing I know, I had like one client, then two, then three. And, actually, as we're talking right now, I'm actually up to 8 clients, which is like huge
Wow.
for me. Yeah. But uh with all of that, like it came time to send the kids back to school and everything, and it was just like, I don't want to go back to that scheduled routine,
Hmm.
of work.
Yep.
And this had, podcast editing kind of taken off enough that I was like, I'm just gonna stay home and see what I can make of it. And so yeah, 2.5 years later, I'm full-blown business. So
Wow. Okay. Well,
yeah.
congrats. So, and yeah, for those listening, and if you're listening, Julie, thanks again for the introduction. And you want to hear Julie's Screw the W2 story, I had to look back myself. I know she was one of the premier guests, if you will, but she was back on episode number 4 of Screw the W2. So be sure to listen to that for, another interesting W2 to entrepreneur story, if you will.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then, going forward, obviously, he made this shift. He had lovely, COVID, which, I think just pretty much impacted everyone to some degree. And now we're, 3+ years removed from that. Time of this recording, maybe longer, depending on when someone listens to this. But when you had that, shall we say, realization, then obviously, okay, I'm going to do this, podcast thing. What were your next steps, or what was the journey like after that once you made the switch from the paraprofessional to entrepreneur?
So the next steps really just consisted of making sure that I had the proper equipment. I originally started with a computer that was like probably 3 times the size of the computer I have now. It was old school. It had maybe 4 gigs of memory, like
Yeah.
it was pretty slow. So then it was, learning the technology side of, okay, what computer do I need? And then also, the program. So I am an all like PC, Android, Google
Yeah.
person. And Julie was teaching me, she's an all Apple person. She loves
Ah,
Apple
okay.
products. And so I just went on to Google and I just said, what is a PC version of iMovie?
Ah,
What's
gotcha.
equal to? And I came across one. It was called Movavi, and it was a
Hmm.
really good program. I absolutely
Okay.
loved it. Used it for a couple of years until Descript came out. Now I'm just obsessed with Descript. But the process really was just it was a slow, patient process. It was learning every little piece along with
Mm.
the audio. Like I didn't understand what compression was or equalizers or any of that. So a lot of it was doing the research and understanding the terminology and everything in there. And then uh, the way that I expanded was literally word of mouth.
Okay.
Julie knows a ton of people. And
Yep.
so she directed a bunch of people my way and I would connect with them. And then, yeah, I mean, that's literally how my business has grown, is pretty much thanks to Julie.
Yeah. No, and yeah, I think word of mouth is always the best. I mean, I remember when I started my podcast, the Wealth and Freedom Nexus podcast, and was researching editors and services, and I'll still never forget the one. And to be fair, they did like some social media management and some other services in with it, but it was a flat $3,000 a month for their services. And after I picked myself up off the floor, I'm like, okay, there's got to be something just a little bit more cost effective than this. So
Yeah. Yeah. The cost of just podcast editing, like it
mhm,
still blows me away what some people charge, and
yeah.
it's definitely been one of those things that, I want to charge something that's not going to make people fall to the floor. you
Yeah,
know I want to charge something that's fair, but also, it pays me for my time spent, but
exactly.
again, it's reasonable.
Yeah, it's got to be a win-win. I mean, obviously, you got to make money, you got to put food on the table, but on the other hand, you're not saying I want a filet mignon and a Mercedes in my driveway in order to get all that paid for.
I mean, the filet mignon would be great, but
Well,
I'm
yeah.
not too picky.
So no, Natalie, I was just thinking back. Obviously, you had a somewhat abrupt, but then also kind of a phase out of your W-2 with the whole COVID. Hey, we're gonna go remote, try to keep all these preschoolers attention via computer. There shouldn't be any issue with that. But do you remember by chance when your last you know work day was, or when you got your last paycheck, or anything sticks in your mind there?
Oh, I think it was probably the middle of, let's see, the summer of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, because we'd finished off the school year. Let's see. So where I live, our schools had shut down March of 2020.
Okay.
And I finished off the school year, and then it was middle of the summer, and we were discussing, are we coming back? Are we doing
Mm.
this? And things were just not quite settled with the COVID thing.
Sure.
And, both my husband and I, we have underlying health issues, and we just weren't quite sure what to expect.
Sure.
So we had to make that big decision. And I remember going and talking to the head preschool teacher and letting her know, like, I'm really sorry. This was our choice, kind of
Yeah.
thing. She was really, really gracious and she understood, but like it is, looking back, it is still hard. I do miss the kids and I miss playing with
Mm.
glitter and Play-Doh. And I mean, it's not a bad gig to sit around and do crafts and play all day.
Right,
Get
exactly.
paid for it. But it was, like the best part about where I'm at now is like my daughter can call me up and say, "Hey mom, I forgot my flute. Can you bring it to me?" Yeah,
Mm,
I'm on my way. You
gotcha.
know, Working at the preschool, it would be like, "Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can't do anything about that, and it's important to me to be there for the kids,
Yeah. So really just the time freedom or maybe even control of your schedule has probably been the best thing of making that shift from the W-2 to, entrepreneur journey.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
All right. Now, Natalie, if anyone out there is listening to this or watching this, maybe for whatever reason they're in a similar situation, maybe they're just not fully satisfied with their job, or if things have changed, maybe they have health issues, whatever the case may be, but they just feel for lack of a better term, stuck. I got to stay here for the insurance benefits, the pension, the retirement, the wage, the fill in the blank. I just feel stuck here. There's no way I could take the leap out of this. What words of encouragement would you maybe give to them to take that leap to the entrepreneurial journey?
Don't wait, take the job. It's worth it. I think you have said it best in so many ways about you just don't know when life will end. So
Mm-hmm.
why torture yourself with a job you hate?
Right.
If you're in that stuck, like, well, it's got great benefits, it's got this, it's got this, it's got this. Well, you know what? There's other jobs out there that have that too that you might be
Yep.
happy. And if the entrepreneurial life is something that you're interested in, it's, how do you put it? It's like working the W-2 that you hate is hard.
Mm-hmm.
Being an entrepreneur is hard. Choose your hard,
Yep. Makes
but
sense.
make it worth it, and you only live life once, so make it
Yeah.
worth it.
Makes sense. So all right. Now, as we close out this, Natalie, and again, I want to thank you for taking the time to come on my show and share your story with my listeners. I've dubbed this the hashtag unscrewed moment, but maybe if you want to share, your services, where people can find you, new projects you're working on, or maybe what you're most excited about as we close out 2023 and move into 2024.
Yeah, yeah. So you can find me at www.lightbulbpodcasting.com. You can schedule a call with me there. I do podcast management. I have connections with a social media manager. And just, I mean, things are taking off like no other.
Mhm.
This is like the best time to start a podcast. It's just, I mean, that saying of, when's the best time to plant a tree 20 years ago, when's the
Yeah.
next best time today? It's the
Yeah.
same thing with a podcast. If you've got something that you are passionate about, that you have education in, whatever, I mean, short story writers, anything, get them out there. It's
Yeah.
worth it. It's a way of expressing yourself. And I actually recently just launched my podcast, and it's been an incredible journey. My podcast is all about how to start a podcast. Really, it's a lot about getting past a lot of those mental blocks.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's
Yeah.
been an interesting journey. It's been a lot of fun.
I'm sure, yeah, and probably how to start a podcast and continue with that podcast, because there's a big thing pod fade out there. I mean,
Mhm.
I swear it's about once a month. There's a podcast I came across. I really liked it. I'm looking like, oh, haven't seen any new episodes, and yeah, their last episode was April of 2021. Okay, I think they're done.
Yeah, yeah. Pod fade's a real tough one, and I think I've have. It's funny. I probably have released as of this day, and I think all four of them I talk about pod fade.
Ah,
And just different ways of avoiding it, and
yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. So, all right. Well, with that, thank you again for joining me, Natalie. For all the listeners out there, hey, if you want to, think about starting a podcast, feel free to pick my brain. Otherwise, go to lightbulbpodcasting.com, schedule a call with Natalie, and she'll take you from there. So, with that, thanks again, Natalie, and have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, John. You too. Thanks for having me.